Hello, everyone. We're going to do chapter 3, which is work ethics. And work ethics is a part of professionalism. Professionalism involves not only legal ethics and following laws and having skills to do your work, but actually performing good and having good work ethics. So you want to make sure that you go over the key terms and the key abbreviations in each of the chapters, just as a reminder, because those words can come up in a test and you need to make sure that you understand what the definitions are. So let's go on with work ethics. As you know, work ethics deal with right and wrong conduct. So worth ethics concern your behavior in the workplace. So this is how you look, what you say, how you treat others, and how you work with others. And of course, residents and families and visitors expect us to be professional. They expect us to look a certain way and to behave a certain way. So, as far as your health goes, you can't look presentable or be professional if you are tired and fatigued and you have lots of stress in your life that you have not handled well. And, if you don't take care of yourself, basically. So, as far as personal health goes, you need to eat a well balanced. Most adults need like 7 hours of sleep. Um, Exercise, make sure that you can see appropriately because you are going to be looking at computers and paperwork, and you got to be able to read and see the wording. Smoking, if you smoke, try to stop because it causes circulatory disorders. There's lots of support groups out there. uh, you do not want to go to work under the influence of drugs that could affect your safety as well as another's safety, and never report to work under the influence of alcohol. Common sense most of the time. Um, as far as your hygiene goes, bathe daily, use a deodorant, antiperspirant, um, brush your teeth, shampoo your hair, keep your fingernails clean, short, and neatly shaped, practice good hand washing, menstrual hygiene if you're a female is important, and of course foot care because that prevents odors and infections of your own feet. So, and we're going to go through this rather quickly. I have most everything explained up on the slides for you guys. So this should not be new stuff for you. I mean, you don't have to, I want you to use your book as a resource and to make sure that you understand the key terms, abbreviations, and so forth, different things out of the book. But a lot of my test questions will mainly come from the PowerPoints, and they will also, and if there's a box or something I want you to look at in the book, it'll be there too. I'll tell you about those as we go along. So getting a job, employers want to hire people who are dependable. They're well groomed, have the needed job skills and training that they require for the job, and have values and attitudes that fit the center. And being dependable is extremely important, really, to an employer. They want you to be on time for work. If you say to an employer, okay, I'm coming to work for you for this set amount of pay, and I'm agreeing to work 40 hours a week, then if you're supposed to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning, you need to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning if that's your shift. So be on time, follow the policies and procedures, and showing up to meet your obligations, because that's basically what employers want. They want somebody dependable. As far as job skills and training, they want you to know, they want to know that you have the required job skills. And of course, for this course, you must meet OBRA training and competency requirements to be a nurse aide. As far as job applications, of course, when you go for a job application, you need to be well groomed and behave pleasant and courteously, have a nice handshake, a firm handshake, not too rough and not too simpy. Um, you need to fill out all the employment requirements if that's an application or however they do it, whether it's online or via in paper. Fill it out appropriately and completely, and then follow the center's instructions for completing and sending that application in. If you get called for a job interview, you need to type a list of your skills to give to the interviewer. Now, when you're going for an interview, guys, this is the time for you to shine your light on you, okay? Because you have qualities they are wanting and that they need. And you need to be neat and clean and well groomed. You need to be on time, preferably about 5 minutes early would be even better. That shows you're dependable. You greet the interviewer in a polite manner. You want to maintain good eye contact. Stand until asked to be seated. Watch your body as you're, just as you are judging the person's body language and what they're telling you when they're talking to you, they're doing the same. So just keep that in mind. Avoid any distracting habits. So if you say, um, is probably not, you need to practice your interview techniques before you get there. Keep your mind on the interview and then give complete and honest answers. Know your strengths and weaknesses, guys, because they're going to ask you what they are. And we all have strengths and weaknesses. And it's okay if you have a weakness, not a problem. Everybody has them. But what the employer is looking for is, what are you doing to strengthen that weakness? So if my weakness is organization, I don't have very good organization, I can say I'm a little organized, but I am working on my organizational skills by making a list so that I make sure I meet all my what I need to do, that type of thing. And during the interview, you want to speak clearly, speak with confidence, be prepared, avoid short and long answers. Share your skills list, ask questions. You should know the mission and the vision, at least the mission statement of the place you're going to interview, or their core values. Most of that stuff you can look up online if you're not real sure. And ask questions. Employers want to know, employers want to hear from you. Review the job description with your interviewer if that's as they uh, offer this to you, and ask questions about, pay rate. What's the pay rate? What's the work hours? What's the uniform requirements? What type of new employee orientation program? And that's really actually a good question to ask is, ask them, if I become a new employee here, how long is my orientation? Who am I going to be with? That type of thing. And then any type of benefits and the career advancement opportunities. When you get offered the job and you accept, you want to agree on a starting date, pay rate, and the work hours, because this is what they're expecting and this is what you are obligating yourself to. So find out where to report on your first day, ask for and read the employee handbook, and don't just take the employee handbook, pull out the sheet in the back that says, I read this, without really reading it, because that's really kind of your contract with them. And you want to be able to know what they are really putting in print for you so that you understand, and then they expect that of you as well. So read everything before you start working. If you're a slow reader, that's okay. You take your time till you get it done. As far as orientation goes, every new employee should have an orientation, and most centers do have policies and procedures that they go through in orientation, and they show you where all the manuals are. Your skills are checked. You may have a skills list, but they're also going to maybe, when you're with your preceptor, they'll have a skills list that she's going to watch you do the skill as well. You are shown how to use the center's supply and equipment. Um, Most of the centers do have preceptor programs. Not all of them, but most of them do. And if you don't feel comfortable after the preceptor program, and you don't feel your orientation is adequate, and you're still really unfamiliar, then ask for more orientation time. So to keep your job, you need to function well, you need to work well with others, and there are going to be people that's going to cross your path that are going to be difficult to work with. Women find this much more difficult than men do. Men, they do have the ability, for the most part, to work with people they don't like. Women, on the other hand, We make little snide remarks and we do subtle things. We always have, I'm sure it has will continue, but you've got to overcome some of these things. You have to become emotionally intelligent, and you're going to have to work with people you don't like. But that doesn't mean, just remember, you don't have to go home with them. You don't live with them, and you're only with them for a certain amount of time. So be courteous. Do the tasks that you need to do together, work together to get the task done properly, and then you're off on your way and they're off on their way. You also need to work when you're scheduled and get to work on time. And again, the entire shift. Don't abandon your patients, your clients, your residents, your tenants, whatever we are calling your person of the facility you're working for. You don't want to do that, and it shows poor work ethics. Absence and tardiness are common reasons for losing a job. Uh, as far as childcare, when you have children, life happens whether you have children or not. Life still happens, but if you do have children, particularly, you need to be prepare for circumstances, like who's going to be taking care of them when you leave for work, or when you're at work, or before you get home from work. And during emergencies, you need to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C all in line, because again, life happens. And then plan for your transportation needs. Uh, as far as teamwork goes, you again practice good work ethics, courtesy, kindness. The quality of care for the resident is affected by how you work with others. So if I have two employees who don't like each other, so they avoid each other during the shift, my residents are going to be affected by that, because somewhere along the line, there's going to be a resident that's going to require two assistants to care for them. And if you're avoiding, then that resident is not going to get the care they would have gotten if you had, say, had your best buddy working down the hall with you. The quality of care really is affected. And it also, the quality of care for the residents is affected by how you feel about your job, because if you're working um, with someone you like, everything's usually hunky-dory. But when you're working with somebody you don't like, then you usually see every flaw that they have, and that just tends to aggravate a person. So as far as attendance goes, report to work when you're scheduled and be on time. Again, I've said this and you'll hear it repeatedly, because that's usually what gets a person terminated. Follow the center's attendance policy. You got to be ready to work when your shift starts. You can't come to work, oh, I forgot this, or oh, I need to go do this. When you come to work, you're supposed to be ready to work. Attendance also means staying the entire shift. And when it's time to leave, you need to report off duty to the nurse so that they know you're leaving off the floor. Have a positive attitude. Positive attitude. Attitude is everything. If you have a stinky attitude, everything will be stinky. And if you have a positive attitude, pretty much it's pretty positive. Avoid gossip. Privacy and confidentiality are resident rights that are protected by OBRA. So, you want to be careful what you're talking about in the center and the coworker, as well as coworker information. All that's confidential. So you want to make sure you're not just voicing whatever to whoever, especially on social media. Personal hygiene and appearance are important. Your speech and language must be professional. Courtesies are needed. Personal matters cannot interfere with your job. Now, listen, everybody has personal matters come and go. Some tend to stay a little bit longer than others, but and I've said this to my employees, leave it at the door. And believe me, it's a hard thing to do, to leave a personal problem at the door, because it's preying on your mind. It's like a stew. It's like a soup that's stewing. And that's what happens when you get a lot of personal stress in your life. That's constantly on your mind, but that affects your work. So you really have to work at leaving those things at the door the best to the best of your ability. So leave for and return from meals and breaks on time, and protect your residents, your families, your visitors, the coworkers, and yourself from harm. And plan your work to give safe, thorough care and to make good use of your time. So that, if you had a bad evening with your husband, not every spare moment that you have on your shift are you complaining to the other nurse aide about how bad or how stinky your husband was to you or your significant other. It just, whatever happens to be the case. You want to manage your stress because stress affects the whole person. And when we have prolonged or frequent stress, that actually can really threaten your health. So you need to deal with your stress, and that's by taking care of yourself. Um, because stress not only affects you, but also will affect the care you give, the person's quality of life, and how you relate to your coworkers. We usually can tell when someone's under stress, especially if it's for a prolonged period of time. Another work ethic that you may come across is harassment. Harassment can be sexual. It can also involve age, race, or ethnic background, or religion, or disability. Harassment is not legal in the workplace. It still occurs. I think it's much, much improved since when I started into work because, and here's the common thing. It may not be sexual, but like dirty jokes. A lot of people like to hear dirty jokes. They don't mind it. I, on the other hand, don't like to hear dirty jokes. So, I mean, I'm going to tell you up front, if you say, I've got a joke for you, I'm going to ask you, okay, is this a dirty joke or does it imply any type of sexual implications? If you say yes, then I'm going to say, I don't really want to hear it, but thanks anyway, and move on. Because so don't think of it as just this big as the sexual harassment cases that you've heard on television. It's not always that. Even jokes about different races or ethnic origins or religion will be skewed as harassment. You want to make sure that you're not doing that. Sexual harassment, of course, involves unwanted sexual behaviors by others, and victims can be women or men. So if you feel you're being harassed, you need to report the matter to your supervisor and the human resources officer and tell the person who is doing the harassment to stop. Okay, that's the first step. Tell them to stop. And then you tell that supervisor what's going on. If you resign from a job or you lose a job, if you resign, whatever the reason for leaving the job, you need to tell your employer. Don't just leave a job without notice. That is so, so rude and such a poor work ethic. And personally, I hope if you ever do that, you can't sleep for a week because of your guilty conscience. Because you not only leave the employer in a lurch, but you leave those residents and those tenants, those clients in a lurch too. And it's not their fault. If you don't like the employer, then you just say, this job is not for me and I won't be back tomorrow. At least give them some notice, okay? An exit interview is a common practice. I've seen some places that don't do them and other places that do them. So it just depends on the facility. If you lose a job, you want to perform your job well and protect your residents from harm. But no pay raise or losing your job results can be results from poor performance. It's not always from that, but it can, for the most part, it is. It's usually from poor performance. And if you haven't had enough training, if you don't feel you've had enough training or whatever the reason, make sure you tell your employer that. As far as drug testing, most all facilities require drug testing of their employees. Drug and alcohol actually affects the resident as well as the staff safety. Um, and some centers, all centers pretty much have drug testing policies. So you have to review your center's policy. You may have to have it before you start work, and there may be spot checks during the time that you do work for the employer. And you're not the only one that be a spot check. It'll be everybody. And then if your name just gets drawn, your name just gets drawn. That's just the way it is. As far as quality of life, your job as a nursing assistant really is important. You do a lot of good as a nursing assistant, and you're there for the resident. Your employers are so appreciate your efforts, and good work ethics impact the quality of life for the resident. And when you have employees who have good work ethics, they are gold. They are gold to the employer, and so they would, we all need to practice good work ethics. So I'll see you on the next chapter.